There are some strange and downright terrifying creatures out in our world. I'm talking some really weird stuff. But luckily, the internet allows us to meet these monsters without leaving the house. So today, we're going to explore the world's freakiest life forms, investigating curious critters, otherworldly enigmas, and flying spiders, as we check out some of the weirdest creatures that make people say, WTF is that? Catch of the century. For thousands of years, sailors have claimed to see monsters swimming around in the far corners of the earth. Today, stories of mermaids and sea serpents are generally taken as myths, but in July 2022, a huge crowd of spectators gathered in Arica, Chile, as a fishing boat appeared to catch a genuine sea monster. The gigantic beast was 16 feet long, and the video amassed 20 million views on TikTok as folks debated whether the fisherman had caught a genuine monster. However, I can confirm this strange beast isn't a mythological creature. It's actually a giant oarfish, an equally weird deep-sea species that lives up to 3,300 feet below the surface. The longest oarfish ever recorded was 36 feet long, and the species is specifically adapted to survive the crushing pressures of the deep ocean. However, this also means that when they're reeled to the low-pressure surface, their bodies expand and even rupture, which may explain the Chilean specimen's, facial issues. But this isn't the first time that a sea dragon has been found by the shore. In 2012, beachgoers in Saint-Brevin-les-Pins, France, found themselves face-to-face with a monster when they encountered this giant skeleton lying on the sand. From a distance, the body looks like the remains of an ancient sea dragon, or a giant oarfish. However, if you're brave enough to approach the creature, you can clearly see that it's made out of metal. Thankfully, it's not a giant snake robot skeleton. It's really a 425-foot-long aluminum sculpture by Chinese-French artist Huang Yongping. Lots of Huang's art involves creating giant sculptures of animals, but his aptly named Serpent of the Ocean is definitely his scariest work. And if an unwitting tourist came across the installment, they might just be tricked into believing that sea monsters are real. The Black Claw. Laguna Beach is a resort city in California with beautiful white sand and a clear ocean. 6 million people go there on vacation every year, but in May 2021, a beachgoer's day was ruined when they discovered a terrifying creature with an evil-looking overhanging claw washed up on the shore. From a distance, the shape looked like a football, and it turned out with good reason. See, closer inspection revealed the shape was actually a Pacific football fish, a deep-sea anglerfish that usually lives 3,000 feet below the surface. These creatures are fearsome predators, and they famously hunt with a glowing stalk that's covered in tiny bioluminescent bacteria. The anglerfish's stalk is a safe place for those bacteria to live, and in return, the predator uses their bioluminescence, aka light emitted from their bodies, to attract curious squid and fish that it can eat. The creature that washed up on Laguna Beach is definitely a female, because male football fish only grow to an inch long. These short kings are far smaller than the fearsome females, who can reach up to 24 inches in length. Well, I know who wears the pants in that relationship. So this horrifying monster is actually a beautiful lady. But how did she end up on the beach? Well, football fish sightings are so rare that marine biologists have only a limited understanding of the species, and they're currently uncertain what causes them to wash up on the shore. Other ocean predators have been known to get beached after following their prey into shallow waters and getting stuck, while others have been observed getting tangled up in fishing nets that pull them towards the surface and tow them to shore. These theories could explain the football fish's unexpected appearance in Laguna Beach, or maybe something even scarier chased it out of the deep sea and up to the surface. Scarier than this thing? Man, I hope not. We see ghosts. The oarfish we saw earlier is pretty strange, but when it's swimming around in its natural habitat, the creature is undeniably beautiful. Unfortunately, not all weird sea monsters are so majestic, and in 2022, a fisherman called Sean Bailey discovered an alien-looking creature off the coast of San Diego.
Hello, you got a funny face. Looks like a thing of people.
I mean, this thing is massive.
Yeah, you are. Don't go back there.
Look at this thing.
Not here. Look, this bird.
Oh, he's got like a little wound on his butt.
What can we do?
What a look at
Challenge?
his
Hey.
face.
You big thing there. Anything on you.
As Sean's boat approached the creature, it looked like a giant ghostly head that had been left to float in the ocean. However, as the thing started to move its fins, it became clear it was alive and uninjured, and according to marine biologists, it was just a very large fish doing some sunbathing. See, this creature is the common mola mola, also known as the ocean sunfish. This gigantic species preys on jellyfish in the chilly ocean depths, sometimes more than 660 feet deep. So when they're finished hunting, they spend their time warming up by basking in the sun at the surface. During this period, the sunfish also allows seabirds to eat parasites off its skin, giving it a free spa treatment while it catches some rays. Incredibly, the sunfish can grow 14 feet long and weigh 5,000 pounds, which is roughly the same weight as the average pickup truck. The strange-looking creature is actually a delicacy in Japan, and it was such a coveted dish in the 17th century that you could give one to the Japanese government as a tax payment in lieu of money or other goods, allowing you to exchange your mola for moolah. Well, maybe Sean should have reeled the fish in after all. The Bangkok Monster. Back in 2022, a TikToker called Supika Toi stumbled across something disturbing, a freaky-looking creature that was hungry. Now, just what in Satan's petting zoo is that thing? At first glance, this freaky creature looks like a mutant pig, a giant snake, or a hand puppet that was too ugly to make it onto Sesame Street. Thankfully, Supika Tui soon posted a second video that revealed the monster was actually a giant soft-shell turtle. The turtle has a rare condition called leucism, which means it's lacking almost all the pigmentation in its skin, resulting in a white, patchy coloration. Remarkably, there are actually 2 of these little oddities at the location, which has not been specified beyond being somewhere in Bangkok. But it seems like a potential new home for me. After all, I'm actually the only leucistic member of my species. What's this? Who knows? Prepare yourself, because I'm about to show you something equal parts bizarre and unsettling. Roll the footage, editor. What in tarnation is that? Well, believe it or not, this isn't a scene from a horror movie. This monster is a real creature that went viral in 2022 and is actually a type of mole. The star-nosed mole, seen in the clip trying to escape a pet carry case, is a small, mostly blind creature that's named after the unusual shape of its nose. It isn't winning any beauty contests, given that the clip brings to mind some kind of slimy horror trying to claw its way out of an air vent into your house. But it would win every eating contest, as it's officially the fastest eating mammal in the world. See, the mole doesn't just use its nose for sniffing, it's actually the most sensitive touch organ in the world, too. The star-shaped structure contains over 100,000 nerve endings, which is almost 10 times as many as there is in the human hand, all packed into a nose that's less than half an inch across. This hypersensitive sniffer transmits so much information to the mole's brain that it's able to essentially see its surroundings by touch, like a super handsy daredevil. Editor, you don't need to animate that line. Anyway, when the mole's nose touches an insect or worm, it takes 230 milliseconds for it to identify its prey as food, catch it, and eat it. By comparison, it takes a human around 650 milliseconds to hit the brakes after spotting a red light. Well, that makes me feel bad about all the time I spend staring into the fridge. I think we're lucky that these 7-inch predators aren't a little bigger. We wouldn't stand a chance. Eyeless biter. If you want to see a weird mole, I could just pop my shirt off and show you my back. Or we could travel back to 2022 when a TikToker called Kostika found this creature scurrying around his backyard. To me, this strange creature looks like the Pokemon Diglett, and if I encountered it in the wild, I'd definitely attempt to catch it and add it to my Pokedex. Luckily, Kostika uploaded a video of the animal without throwing a Pokeball at it, and some wildlife experts rushed to the comments to explain that the strange-looking creature is actually a lesser blind mole rat. This creature's tiny eyes are buried under its skin, rendering it functionally blind. As a result, they spend most of their time underground, crawling through tunnels that they dig with their giant teeth. Teeth which can move independently for more digging precision. Ew, weird. Their eyes work just well enough to tell whether it's light or dark, so the mole can search their tunnels for any holes that expose them to the outside world before plugging them up with dirt to stay hidden from predators. Then they can enjoy eating dirt in peace. I mean, I prefer pizza, but to each their own, I guess. Antarctic aliens. A great man once said,
Life, finds a way.
and in the wild, some creatures are able to live in incredibly inhospitable environments. For example, I survived in my college dorm room for a year, and in 2023, marine biologists revealed that they discovered a new deep-sea creature living in an even tougher biome, the icy Antarctic Ocean. The biologists caught the creature in a net, and when they reeled it in, they realized it was a never-before-seen species of crinoid, a class of incredibly odd animal that is commonly referred to as a feather star. Crinoids are related to sea urchins and starfish, and each possesses a cluster of legs called cirri that it uses to walk across the seabed, as well as those long, feathery strands which can be used to float. When images of the new species were posted online, its strange appearance immediately drew comparisons to the facehuggers from Alien and the Sentinels from The Matrix. However, the marine biologists soon clarified that the creature isn't really a monster, as it's only 8 inches long, and they named it the Antarctic Strawberry Feather Star, after its strawberry-shaped body. As a result, the feather star is totally harmless, but the creature is still undeniably creepy. And if I ever found this strawberry in my fruit salad, I'd be scarred for life. Flying spiders. We can't talk about weird creatures without discussing one of the strangest, scariest animals in the animal kingdom, spiders. Around 6% of people suffer from arachnophobia, and in 2020, the infamous creepy crawlies became a whole lot scarier when a woman from British Columbia, Canada, stumbled across a giant tarantula with wings. Chantal Contarines was walking to her car with her 9-year-old daughter, Sophia, when they spotted this terrifying creature crawling across the sidewalk. According to Chantal, the critter was as large as her hand, and its massive wings and fuzzy legs made it look like a mutant arachnid cooked up in a lab. Chantal shared her photo to a local Facebook group, and as arachnophobes started to freak out in the comments, wildlife experts calmed the situation down by explaining that the terrifying tarantula is actually just a really, really big moth. See, the Polyphemus moth has a large body and looks a lot like a tarantula, albeit minus 2 legs, until it spreads its wings. These moths only live for 2 weeks after emerging from their post-pupa stage cocoon and spend their entire adult lives looking for a mate before dying. The creatures are so focused on mating that they never eat during their short adult lifespan, and they don't even have mouths. So, despite its fearsome appearance, Chantal's moth couldn't bite you if it tried, and there's no such thing as winged spiders. Well, for now. Thank God. All you arachnophobes can stop hiding in the comments now. Brains. Well, we put it off for as long as we could, but it's time to head to the spiritual home of all weird animals, Australia. Now, you might think that no animal could faze an Aussie, but that theory was tested in 2023 when a woman from Lauderdale, Tasmania, stumbled across these strange blobs on the beach. The shapes were soft to the touch, and when she posted some photos onto Facebook, commenters immediately started comparing them to brains. Some theorized that they were the brains of sea creatures that had washed on shore, while others argued that the woman had clearly stumbled across a zombie's pantry. Luckily, wildlife experts soon commented on the post to set things straight, and they swiftly identified the blobs as sea squirts. This is a class of marine animal with over 3,000 different species, and 249 of them are native to Tasmania. The creatures spend their lives anchored to the sea floor using a filtration system to suck in water and extract edible plankton. Unfortunately, heavy currents and storms can dislodge the squirts, so they occasionally wash up on the Australian coast. These beached sea squirts come in all shapes and sizes, like the brainy blobs found in Lauderdale or this sea tulip that washed up in the Australian town of Fairhaven. But these things get even weirder. If you find any species of sea squirt and touch it, it'll live up to its name by squirting seawater at you in self-defense. Not much of a threat, really, is it? In fact, as long as you don't try to eat them raw, as some species are poisonous, the creepy creatures are harmless. And personally, I'm pretty jealous of their lifestyle. It must be great to shoot annoying people with water while having your food brought to you all day. The Chilean blob. My Tinder profile says I love long walks in the beach. But so far, our seaside stroll has been rudely interrupted by an anglerfish, a dragon, and a group of brainy sea squirts. Still, our walk is about to get a whole lot worse as we discover the daddy of all disgusting things you could find on the coast. Back in 2003, beachgoers in Los Muermos, Chile, stumbled across the grisly remains of a gigantic monster lying on the sand. The 14-ton body was 40 feet across, and when scientists arrived at the scene, they were unable to identify the creature. This mysterious animal was dubbed the Chilean blob. And as the discovery received media attention, people began to speculate that the body belonged to a giant octopus, or the ancient legendary sea monster, the Kraken. However, the marine biologists didn't give up, and after a year of research, they managed to extract some DNA from the creature and test it, revealing that the blob was actually the long-rotted remains of a sperm whale. They explained that the whale had died months before its discovery, and much of its body had been eaten by other creatures, allowing the tough, decomposing collagen of its flesh to come loose from its bones and wash up on the beach. As the scientists confirmed that the creature wasn't a sea monster, the citizens of Los Muermos breathed a sigh of relief. However, I don't think they can fully relax. We don't know whether that whale died of natural causes or whether an even larger monster killed it. Maybe the Kraken's still out there after all. Count Bacula. There's nothing worse than lying down after a long day and hearing an unexpected knock at the door. But in 2024, a TikToker called Blonde encountered a terrifying late-night caller after she heard a mysterious tapping. Yikes. As a storm raged outside, a huge bat attempted to find a way into Blonde's home in Sydney, Australia. It hung around outside until morning, prompting Blonde to call a bat rescue expert who arrived and explained that the creature wasn't a vampire. It was actually a flying fox, a non-aggressive species of bat that eats flowers and fruit. Flying foxes struggle to stay warm when they're wet, and they can't take off in flight from the ground. So it was just trying to get into Blonde's house to find somewhere warm and dry. Still, Blonde made the right call to lock it outside, as around 1% of flying foxes are carriers of Australian bat lyssavirus. This disease is closely related to rabies and is transmitted through a bite from an infected animal, and its symptoms include fever and muscle spasms. It can be cured if you receive treatment immediately after exposure, but once the symptoms set in, there's no cure and it's always fatal. Luckily, the expert confirmed that this particular bat wasn't infected with lyssavirus, so she was able to bundle it up in a blanket, give it some food, and release it back into the wild. Blonde's fans agreed that the late-night caller was actually pretty cute in daylight, and in this case, the weird creature was basically a puppy with wings. Aww. Cryptids are coming. Let's take a trip back in time now to peruse some of the weirdest creatures of the past. Back in the 16th century, sailors frequently returned from their voyages with the bodies of so-called demons and mermaids, and they used to sell them to tourists to make an extra bit of money on the side. These artifacts were incredibly popular, but it turns out the cryptids were actually the bodies of rays and skatefish that the sailors had dried and carved to look like monsters. These scams were quite common, and there's a long history of fraudsters altering the remains of regular animals to make them look like mythical creatures, like these mermaids that were created sewing the top of half of a mummified monkey to the bottom half of a fish. Now, thankfully, these gruesome scams have been left in the past, but similar tricks are now performed with social media instead of Frankenstein-like surgery. For example, in 2020, a group of friends claimed to have discovered a colossal, man-sized lobster at the beach. At first glance, this looks like an incredible discovery. However, when you consider the officially recognized biggest lobster ever caught weighed only 44 pounds, something begins to smell fishy. Given that this lobster is also as still and stiff as a statue, it's pretty clear it's not real. And seeing as it was uploaded by the Salseo Sports Bar and Restaurant in Puerto Rico, it's really a viral promotion for the bar. A similar hoax went viral in 2015 when images of a mysterious salamander were posted onto social media. Web users started questioning whether the creature was real, and soon experts confirmed that the animal existed, but it went extinct 250 million years ago. See, the Diplocalus was a prehistoric amphibian that existed long before the invention of cameras, so its appearance in this image was a mystery, until a Japanese sculptor called Goro Furata explained that the Diplocalus was one of his models, and he took the photos to show off his artwork. Well, that's just like the late, great Abraham Lincoln said, you really can't believe everything you see online. Other bizarre prehistoric animals have been found in the present in a more real form, like these conodont fossils that were discovered in Scotland in the 1980s. Conodonts went extinct 200 million years ago, and while the fossils might not look like much, scientists used them to work out that they were eel-like creatures with bulbous eyes and a gaping mouth full of sharp teeth. Since then, artistic renditions of conodonts have gone viral, showing what the peculiar creatures might have looked like. And as terrifyingly bizarre as they looked, thankfully, conodonts were actually only 0.2 inches long and fed on microscopic plankton, possibly using rows of small, narrow teeth to filter feed. Even so, if by some science-defying miracle you ever see a conodont in the wild, best not to put your finger in its mouth, huh? Jeff the Talking Mongoose. Now, we've seen some hoaxes with a clear explanation, so let's look at a truly bizarre mystery that's never conclusively been solved. In 1931, James and Margaret Irving from the Isle of Man in the UK started hearing strange noises coming from inside the wood-paneled walls of their house. It sounded like a baby trying to talk, and after weeks of these weird sounds, the mysterious high-pitched voice started to speak to them in English. Now, strap in, folks, because this is where it gets crazy. The voice claimed to be the ghost of a mongoose called Jeff, and according to the Irvings, they soon formed an uneasy friendship with it. Jeff would reportedly engage in conversation, sharing gossip he'd somehow gathered about the neighbors, and he also liked to prank the Irvings by throwing things at them and stealing their food. Whenever the Irvings asked Jeff why he acted like such a rascal, his response was, quote,
"I did it for the devilment."
This story became hugely popular in the newspapers, but people were understandably skeptical. While all the Irvings claimed to speak to Jeff, the mongoose only allowed their 12-year-old daughter, Vori, to regularly see him. And when Vori snapped photographs of him, the heavily blurry results looked suspiciously like a stuffed animal. Furthermore, when James Irving gathered up some of Jeff's hairs to prove his existence, London's Natural History Museum tested them and confirmed that they came from their family's sheepdog. Even so, Vori maintained her family's innocence until she passed away in 2005, vehemently denying the story was made up for attention or money. She noted that the Jeff story was terrible for the family, as she was relentlessly bullied in school, and when the Irvings moved house after James's death in 1945, they had to sell their property for a loss due to its reputation as a haunted house. Considering that the family reportedly lost money from the ordeal, it's hard to determine a reason to fabricate Jeff's existence. Vori's passing means that the real story may remain a mystery forever. And despite the movies, documentaries, and books that have been made on the subject, which offer theories ranging from psychological delusion to harassment by interdimensional demonic entities to Vori being a compulsive liar and a ventriloquist, it seems like we'll probably never know the whole truth about Jeff. Well, unless we head to the Isle of Man and meet his squeaking, pranking, mongoosing ghost ourselves.
For the devilment.
Disgusting delivery. In January 2024, a Redditor from southern Wisconsin discovered an unnerving egg on their front porch. The unsettling delivery put the ew in UPS, but it gives us the perfect opportunity to play my favorite game. What's that egg? So, for the grand prize of $0, here comes the first and final question. What laid this egg? A leucistic turtle. B, a giant oarfish. Or C, a creepy mermaid. Unfortunately, my game show is rigged. None of those answers are correct. See, when a homeowner uploaded a photo of the egg onto Reddit and asked what could have laid it, an ornithologist explained that it was probably laid by either a regular pigeon, a house finch, or a house sparrow. See, 97% of an egg's shell is composed of calcium carbonate, so if a bird isn't getting enough calcium in its diet or has certain diseases, it can lay eggs with the shells missing, exposing the transparent membrane. Incredibly, if the egg is kept warm and safe in an incubator, the Redditor could have still saved the baby bird's life, though sadly no update has been given. But here's hoping this weird little egg dweller grew up to be a full-blown weirdo adult bird. After all, as we've seen, the weirdest animals are the most fun. Which of those freaky creatures did you find the strangest? Have you ever encountered even weirder creatures? Let me know down in the comments, and thanks for watching.